Hi, I'm Brandon LaBeouf with NOLATAC Training Consulting, as well as the St. Bernard Indoor Shooting Center. In this segment of our Louisiana Concealed Handgun Permit Instructor Development Series, we're going to talk about no gun signs. What does it mean in the state of Louisiana if a business has a no gun sign on its door? What does that mean from a legal perspective? What does it mean from a moral perspective? And how should we be communicating that to our students? So first off, a no gun sign in the state of Louisiana does not in and of itself have any legal weight. You're not going to be charged with ignoring the sign. Now, the argument could be made that by ignoring the sign, you are in an element trespassing. The no gun sign here pretty much has the same weight of law that a no shirt, no shoes, no service sign does. It's really more in a legal realm a courtesy. Now, the way this typically plays out in real life is if someone were to become aware that you have a firearm in that property and they say, hey, we don't allow firearms here, you need to leave. If you then turn around and leave, no harm, no foul, everything's fine. However, if you don't immediately leave and you start trying to engage them in conversation or argument or whatever, then at that point now, you are in fact trespassing. Specifically, you are remaining in places after being forbidden, which is a type of trespass, and that will be prosecuted. So understand that. What I would ask that you consider, and that what you try to communicate to your students, is really more on the moral side. The legal side is pretty cut and dry. The moral side, however, there's two schools of thought on this. One is a lot of people, in my opinion, ignorantly, not having the knowledge, say, well, that's BS. These people can't violate my Second Amendment rights. If they're not going to let me carry a gun in that place, then they should provide for my security. Well, it doesn't really work that way. Okay, first off, the Second Amendment does not protect us from each other. It protects us from the government. That's what the entire Constitution does. It's designed specifically to protect us from the government doing things it's not supposed to do. Okay, it's a pool rule sign. It tells the government what they can't do. So to say that a business, say a movie theater, can't violate my Second Amendment rights like that, well, that's true. They are incapable. It is impossible. They do not have the capability to violate your Second Amendment rights. However, they do have private property rights, and you can violate those. I would argue that that is not the moral thing to do, and that if you're standing on top of the Constitution, pounding your chest thinking that you're the self-righteous one, doing what you want to do, that you are absolutely wrong. All right? If a business has a no gun sign, what they're telling you is they don't want your money. They could take that gun out and put a dollar bill sign in there, and that's essentially what I see when I see those signs. All right? Now, if I see that sign, I turn around and walk away, they never know they lost that money. So typically what I do, and what I advise my students to do, is if they feel strongly about this issue and would like to try to affect positive change in their community, what I recommend they do is, first and foremost, respect that property owner's private property rights, as I would expect people to respect mine. Go back to your vehicle, secure your firearm, and then go back in and actually speak to the owner or the manager. And say hi, introduce yourself, be polite, be professional. Don't be preachy, don't be teachy, don't be condescending. Just simply say, hi, I'm Brandon LaBeouf. I was just about to come in and buy something, and I noticed you have a no gun sign on your door. Is that a current policy, or is that something? Because again, lots of people rent buildings or buy places, and as a business owner, the last thing you think of is with stickers on the door. So they may not even be aware that sticker's there. Okay, I've actually had that happen where a business owner said, "What?" and then go back and literally have taken it off in front of it. But first, ask the question before you accuse. And if they say, "Oh well, that's corporate policy," you say, "Okay, no problem. I understand that. I respect your rights. I respect your decision to do that. I just want to let you know I am a concealed handgun permit holder. I've secured. I don't have any firearms on me now, but I want to come in and just let you know that unfortunately I'm not going to be able to patronize your establishment because I don't feel comfortable coming in here when my right to protect myself is not being respected and recognized here." All right. And also, I'm sure you would agree that someone with a concealed handgun permit that's passed a federal background check is probably not someone you're worried about being a bad guy. In fact, if anything, they're probably a good guy. So I just wanted to let you know that. I know you may not have the ability to affect change, to change the policy or anything like that. But if you do, could you please pass it on to the owners or to corporate and let them know that there's a large segment of our community, roughly about 10% or a little less than 10% of the population of Louisiana has concealed handgun permits, and that's not even counting the people who legally open carry that don't require a permit. So there's a lot of gun owners that are going to choose to not do business here when they're going to be some of your best customers. So also, we have a card that we sell, that we give out, that is a very professional way of letting a business know. And on one side it says, hey, I noticed your no gun sign. I'm a concealed handgun permit holder. Here's some things you know about me. I'm not a felon. I'm not, I've never been convicted of domestic abuse, all these things. And on the other side it says, look, if you'd like to change that sign, give these guys an email, which is us, and then we will send them a legally possessed firearms or welcome on this premise sign that they can put up, so that they're inviting, law-abiding, responsible gun owners. So we need to kind of look at it from the other perspective. A lot of it wants to be me, 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 me. How's it affecting me? We need to think about the property owner, because they're the ones with the actual rights. And you know what? If they don't want me there with my gun, that's awesome. I will go and spend my money somewhere else with someone who shares my viewpoint. Okay, there's a lot. Everyone has their pet issues and the things that are important and near and dear to their heart, and we typically don't want to associate with people who counter those. Maybe you're an anti-abortion person, and if you knew a business was very pro-abortion, you probably wouldn't choose to do business with them, and vice versa. So it's the same thing with guns. I would just ask that you please understand and communicate to your students that they have absolutely no Second Amendment rights as they perceive them via the Constitution on someone else's private property. If we look at the First Amendment, I have a freedom of expression. That doesn't mean I can go into your living room and draw on your wall because that's how I choose to express myself and I have a First Amendment right. No, that's your private property, okay? And yes, I understand businesses are open to the public, but they're still privately owned property. So just keep that in mind and make sure you have a way to articulate that to your students. Make sure they understand. Again, don't be preachy, don't be teachy, don't get into someone's face about it and become argumentative, because that just doesn't work with anyone. We want to provide a good positive image and maybe walk away from that encounter making these people say, he kind of has a point. Not, whatever, he's just some loudmouth right-wing extremist. We don't want to personify that image. So some things to think about. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us on our Facebook page, either for NOLATAC, or we also have a Facebook page for St. Bernard Indoor Shooting Center. We also have an online forum, NOLATACforum.com, as well as our YouTube channel, Instagram, all the good social media stuff. We actually, instructors, you should be practicing and keeping yourself trained up, so you're more than welcome to come out to the range. As always, be vigilant, be prepared. Y'all stay safe.